Congratulations and felicitations.
Okay, here comes the first round.
Boom. And
Jeez, that was just
Boom.
unnecessary.
You kidding me? You can't be out of range? What?
greetings and felicitations, YouTube. Jarl of the Appian Way here with a new Top Troy tip for you. I'd like to introduce you to this lovely map. This map is the Sacred Creek. What makes this map truly unique amongst all other maps in Troy is that it features every terrain type that you could run into in a battlefield. It's got tall grass, it's got mud, it's got shallow water, and of course, forest and scrubs. So, let's go ahead and show you how all of these different various terrain types affect all of your units based on their mass. I'm going to go ahead and put this in pause before the opposing Achilles reaches my army. I've made sure to bring a nice little assortment of all of the different types of units by size category and by weight category. Alright, so we've got a hero, which I went ahead and I elected to put him into a chariot. This is Achilles, of course. Don't ever put him in a chariot, please. We've got light infantry, medium infantry, heavy infantry, light skirmish infantry, medium skirmish infantry, and heavy skirmish infantry. We have chariots. This time I just brought the heavy, but all chariots are affected the same way in all territory. Unless, of course, you're talking about the hero's mount. That does not count as a chariot. I brought light cavalry, medium cavalry, heavy cavalry, and then I brought a light large unit and a heavy large unit. And then I brought a single entity monster Minotaur, which I am no longer going to call a large unit. There's a lot to learn this episode. I hope you're ready for it. It's going to be fun. So we're just going to start first of all by covering the mounted hero. The mounted hero counts as a large unit, and that means that in the scrubs and forests, he will get 40% speed nerf, 20% melee attack nerf, and 40% charge speed nerf. Now that's just for large units, and that is going to be the same case for cavalry, which is 60, 80, 60. Is that the same? I believe it was 60. Yeah, 60, 80, 60. All cavalry, regardless of weight class, as well as giants, 60, 80, 60. So whether they're light or large weight class, they are all going to be affected the same way in the trees. All right. Going back to Achilles, let's also look at mud. If we put a mounted hero in the mud, we're looking at large units penalty. So 25% penalty on melee defense, 40% penalty on charge speed, 40% penalty on normal speed. And the same is true for all the cavalry, regardless of weight class. And the same is true for the giants, the large units. Again, just large units. Let's go take a quick peek at the tall grass, which is, pretty much the most common terrain type other than forest and scrubs in this game. Let's start with Achilles. Mounted, we're looking at, let's see it, a 5% penalty to charge speed and speed. And that's going to remain true for all large units. A 5% charge speed bonus. Boom, boom, boom. As you can see right there. You might notice it doesn't even say that that's for large units. This also counts for infantry. Light, medium, heavy, just a 5% speed penalty. Same's true, of course, for our skirmishers. There you can see. And the same is also true for our Minotaur, 5% speed bonus. The only thing that gets a different trait in tall grass are chariots. Chariots are looking at a 50% charge speed and normal speed penalty and a 25% melee defense penalty. That melee defense penalty is actually rather significant. If you look over on the left side of the screen, you'll see that melee defense is already just normally on a reinforced heavy chariot a 25. We're talking about knocking off an additional 6 points, 6.25 points of melee defense. Ooh, that matters, because that's already a pretty low melee defense. That really matters if you can catch a chariot in the tall grass. So that's it. We've covered tall grass. We've covered large units in the forest and scrubs. Let's see how the forest and scrubs affects infantry. So this is a light infantry option, and you'll see here that in the forest and scrubs, give it a second, it just reduces their visibility range by 10%. It also indicates that that's a light infantry specific effect. But it's also true for medium infantry and heavy infantry. And when I was checking this out a second ago, I'd like to point out that the Hector's Chosen, for some reason, it didn't have any debuff here. There's also a buff associated with Forest and Scrubs that I should talk about, and that is the 40% chance for missiles to be blocked. That's pretty significant. That's a really, really good buff. That does not stack necessarily with the missile block chance provided by shields, but rather it's another layer of defense. So the arrow has to, first of all, get past this 40% chance that the missile will be blocked, and then it has to deal with the percentage chance of your shield. Also, not calculated in there is the fact that these trees, the actual physical objects themselves, they can also block projectiles. So it's even better than just that 40% chance for missiles to be blocked. But then the downside is that you have to maneuver your forces around them. You can't just clip through them. So this is also true with skirmishers as well. They get that 10% visibility range decrease, and same is true for, let's see here, for the Minotaur. Yes, 10% visibility range. I'm saving the Minotaur for last here to talk about because you'll note it says heavy infantry. It doesn't count as a large unit from what I've seen. The same is true as if I were to put this guy in the mud. Let's see what it says here. 1 second. 30% speed penalty. The Minotaur is not a large unit. It is just heavy infantry. It is a singular heavy infantry. All right, so we've covered forest and scrubs. We've covered tall grass. Let's really talk about the mud. Let's get down in here and really get intimate with it. So we've already covered what happens to a mounted hero here, a large unit with a 25% melee defense penalty and a 40% speed penalty. Same is true with all large units, and that includes both light and heavy giants. Infantry is different. Infantry is not as impacted as heavily. Light infantry in particular gets off scot-free with this stuff. Only a 10% penalty to speed and charge speed. Medium infantry, 20%. Heavy infantry, 30%. So actually, apparently it's classifying Thigh and Spears here as medium. That's definitely wrong. They're definitely a heavy. Let's make sure that wasn't a fluke. Yeah, it did that. I've noticed a bunch of these units actually have some oddities, and that's actually why I chose Thigh, because it isn't just the Thigh and Spears that have this oddity. It's also the heavy javelin throwers. This is a heavyweight class skirmish unit, the only one in the game, and yet it's treated as medium. I also brought an actual medium skirmish infantry here so you could see that they have the same penalties as regular medium infantry. And it's also worth noting that when I was looking at this with Hector just a minute ago, the Renowned Archers, which is a medium archer, they were classified as a light infantry in the terrain effects. So I think some of the skirmish units in particular anyway, some of the skirmish units might be less burdened than melee infantry in certain terrain types, but not all of them. Either that, or the tooltips are just completely wrong, and you should just focus on what the unit size says in the card. Not 100% sure. We can run a test here on that in just a second when I put the units into the mud. Now, the biggest loser in the mud, though, more so than a large unit, this is the large unit penalty, right? 75, 60, 60. Same is true for a hero in a chariot mount. Chariot units lose 70% of their speed, 70% of their charge speed, and 75% of their melee defense. Chariots in the mud is devastating. 70, 70, 75. Chariots in the trees. Let's get that tooltip to pop up here. 1 second. 20% melee attack penalty, 75% melee defense penalty, 70% speed penalty, and charge speed penalty. So that was a melee attack penalty on top of a 70, 70, 75. Hold on, are trees actually worse for chariots than mud? Yeah, they really are. Trees and scrubs are actually worse for chariots than the mud are. I actually didn't know that. Don't put your chariots in scrubs. Dude. Okay, where was I? There's only one more terrain type that you're likely to see. We're just going to go ahead and cover everybody in this. And this is shallow water. Ooh, There's really only 2 multiplayer maps that take advantage of this terrain type. So first of all, the mounted hero, no penalty. Light infantry loses 40% of its melee attack and 20% of its speed. Medium infantry, 20 melee attack, 20 speed. Heavy infantry, it's 20% speed and 20% melee attack lost. Now, the skirmishers, not treated any differently. They are treated just the same as their weight class for medium infantry. Now, let's look at large units here. Again, cavalry, not impacted in any way. Giants, not impacted in any way. Chariots lose 50% of their charge speed, 50% of their melee defense, and 50% of their normal speed. So, in the general sense, putting chariots anywhere other than the open field is bad for you. Don't put your chariots in the scrubs more than anything else. But also, don't put your chariots in the tall grass if you can avoid it because of that huge speed debuff. Don't put them in shallow water. Certainly don't put them in mud. Chariots are affected greatly by that. The one exception being the hero. The hero in a chariot doesn't count as a chariot. It just counts as a large unit, and it'll get away with shallow water like there's no problem. The Minotaur doesn't count as a large unit, apparently, and it just treats all of these terrain just like it was a heavy infantry, okay? Those are the big takeaways here. Now, let's do a quick test here. I'm going to go ahead and have Achilles step off of his chariot here for you. And I also want to go ahead and put these skirmish infantry into the mud. Let's have them cross it here before Achilles reaches them, like so. We'll have them run on over. And while they're running over, I'm going to have Achilles here demonstrate just exactly what he is. So if I were to put Achilles into the trees, let's see what happens to him. He still counts as a large unit. 40 speed penalty, 20 melee attack penalty, 40 charge speed penalty. Same is true for if I were to put him in the mud. Yep, 75, 60, 60. Same would be true if I were to put him in the tall grass. 95, 95. And shallow water, no impact. Now let's go ahead and get some of these units into the mud. Okay, so the Minotaur made it into the mud first, and you can see here, the only way he's been impacted is his speed has been reduced. The Giants, you'll note a melee defense and speed penalty, but they'll also receive a charge speed penalty. That just isn't displayed on the card. Got our Achaean Slingers out here crossing into the mud now. Their speed hasn't been impacted yet. There it goes. Just 10% of their speed, just knocked right off the top. The medium Renowned Armored Slingers have entered the mud. They've lost only a little bit of speed. And now we've got the Heavy Javelin Throwers. Let's see here. So their speed in the mud is 24. Let's see what it is outside of the mud. I'm very curious. Also, the speed of the Phthyian Spears is 37. So 24 outside of the mud. Let's see what happens. Let's get them out of the mud. So they lost 6 speed by stepping into the mud. 6 is 20% of 30. So I suppose it is counting them as a medium infantry and not actually as a heavy infantry. Which is interesting because they'll still stop a chariot like they're heavy infantry. Alright, so the Phthyian Spears, speed 37. I have them crossing into the mud now. Let's see how they do. So they lost 7 speed. 7 of 37. Let me run some quick math here. So they should have lost at least 10 speed for being a heavy infantry in the mud, but their speed penalty here is actually only a 20% penalty. So for whatever reason, the Phthyian Spears are treating the mud like they're a medium infantry. And maybe this is why the normal Phthyian Spear doesn't have that much of an impact in battle compared to some of the other units in the roster. Maybe their mass is actually medium. That could be the case. So there you go. I really hope that information is useful to you. It might be a bit long-winded. I'm gonna see what I can do to make sure that information is easy to consume and digest and look at. But it's I want people to know where their terrain, where their units are in the terrain. And on top of that, I'm actually going to show you a quick battle replay that shows just how important it is to take advantage of the terrain when you're playing, and that the way you use the terrain can and will make a big difference in how you perform in battle. So the other day, Alexandros and I had a battle on, you guessed it, the Sacred Creek. I'm playing as Hippolyta's Amazons, he's playing as Phthia, and I'm going to go over my army here really quick so you can see what I've brought. I've brought Hippolyta mounted on her horse for 210 weapon range. I've brought a line of black spears. I've brought both of the Aristomachoi. I've brought sirens, I've brought huntresses, and I've brought Amazon champions. I've brought all of the best units. Oh, there's also horsewomen out here. I've brought all of the best units in Hippolyta's Amazon roster. They don't get any better than these, right? These are the ones you should always take in every battle. You can't lose with an army like this. Okay, obviously I'm exaggerating here. But let's also take a look at my opponent's army. He brought a Death Star blob. This is going to be impossible for me to call out all the units accurately because he has them all kind of lined up together. He brought a Defender Protector, an okay hero. He brought a couple of Myrmidons, good picks. He brought a pair of Champions of Phthia, heavy infantry that I don't often take. They're not really all that good. He brought some militia, you know, so-so units, good for padding out the stats. He brought a, was this a Renowned Club Warrior, which is a good charger, Giant Champion, good pick, solid pick. And then he brought a couple of heavy swordsmen and a heavy javelin thrower, okay? Heavy javelin thrower in particular, not these aren't amazing picks, right? They're not. They just flat out aren't. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to run down here, I'm going to use my sirens to taunt one of the Champions of Phthia, try and peel it away from the rest of the army. He's already noticed that I brought chariots, so he's just going to go ahead and fight his battle right here in the trees. Just do as much as he can from this position of relative safety. I'm trying to fall back with my infantry so that I can fight him using my skirmishers, with my cavalry, with my chariots, with my with Hippolyta. I want to use as much ranged power as I can to kill as much of the army as I can before I get my infantry involved. This is the classic way, a very classic way to play as Hippolyta. Get the attention of specific units, get them into disadvantageous positions, pull them apart, pick them apart, beat them up with your faster resources, and then engage with your infantry, okay? So, sure, what I've done here is I've taunted a Champion of Phthia. I've gotten it kind of away from the rest of its army. I've spread out his line a bit. Let me go ahead and charge on in here with my horsewomen. Well, the horsewomen are affected by the mud. This is actually a point of consternation for Amazon fans, because you'll note they have this ability here called Strider. Speed and combat penalties caused by terrain are ignored by this unit. Well, that's definitely not the case. Their speed right now is at a 58 and their melee defense is at a 24 because they are counted as a large unit in the mud. The mud should not be impacting them. Too bad it did. So because of that huge speed debuff, I wasn't able to hit those Champions of Phthia as quickly as I could have done so otherwise. My sirens are still absolutely getting chased, and I have singled out portions of the enemy's army in traditional classic Hippolyta style play, but because I'm not caring about the terrain, I can't capitalize on these maneuvers that I've caused. Watch the speed impact here. Boom. Huge hit. The horsemen, it's like they're hitting a brick wall. It's a good target of opportunity here. Go in here, target some militia, quick charge them. Oh, he's so underwhelming because they also lose their charge bonus, their charge speed bonus. And he's, as you can see by the red X's and this one, yeah, all three of the red X's, I'm losing out on this battle pretty horrifically. The creek is filling with the blood of the Amazon horsewomen. So you can probably see in the bodies who actually got the worst end of that deal. There were some casualties amongst the militia, but also certainly amongst the Amazonians. That is a very dignified posture to be in, lady. Okay. So as we continue on here, there's a militia chasing my sirens. Big whoop. I'll just keep running. and he's going to go ahead and get his armies back out here. I have to kind of engage with my infantry now, and he's happy to engage me in these positions in the trees because my chariots, they don't really have a good target here. I can have my chariots attacking the trees, but you know what's going to happen. They'll lose so much of their combat bonuses and so much of their speed. I'm eventually going to take my chariots and try and squirrel through with them this way. It's a long and dangerous journey, but one that I could probably pull off. Let's go ahead and speed up this battle some and show you more ways that the terrain really impacts the play. Keep in mind, right now it's just pretty much strictly an infantry battle, and he has the infantry numbers to really hurt me here. And the only way that this terrain affects infantry is in the detection range. It is worth noting that he does have his giants in the tree line. They just helped absolutely clean up one of my Aristomachoi, even with the penalties that they would be taking in the tree line. You can see the red areas on their unit card. That's currently all of the debuffs that the giant champions are currently facing from being both tired and in the trees. Now, because of his positional play, and because he has this position here in the trees, some of Hippolyta's arrows aren't making it to their target. And not only that, he's also getting protection from other skirmishers of mine, like the Sirens and my my Huntresses. Granted, he's already pretty much eliminated the Huntresses from the battle by keeping them in this tree line. The other fact of the matter is that once they leave this tree line here, we're going to be in mud. And I'm full of large units and champions. Here we go. Check this out. I've got Amazon champions charging a Myrmidon swordsman, and I immediately order them to just get out of the mud. It was on my way out. You can see how slowly they're going. I got really lucky, though, ultimately in the long run. The chariots still deal their damage from movement, so it was a good opportunity to get a big hit on those Myrmidons, and the Myrmidons didn't really hurt me all that much. But now you can see my horsemen stuck here in the mud. They're going to get pinned in by Myrmidon swordsmen while chased by militia and heavy swordsmen, and I'm just trying to run away, try and get them out of there. Their speed is at 55, and it's probably going to get lower because they also have skittish horses once I have them lose more and more morale. So skittish horses, so long as their hit points are below 50%, they lose an additional 30% speed. And that's definitely what's happened to these horsewomen over here. Speed 28. Skittish horses in the mud. Speed 27 now. Just drastically low numbers for horses. Look at them try to get out of here. The militia is faster. In the mud, the militia is faster than a below half health horsewoman. Alright, so Hippolyta's out of ammo now and only with 65 kills for it. That's the impact that the trees had. And for the rest of this battle, I'm pretty much relegated to using Hippolyta on hit-and-run tactics while trying to find ways to encourage my opponent to abandon the mud. As you see, I used my Sirens to taunt out this Champion of Thaya, but once I got the Champion of Thaya out here, it was a good opportunity to just roll on over with the chariots, get another quick horsewoman charge. This is in, triple speed, so it's actually kind of hard to see when they actually make those impacts. I actually have to try and pull my champions back because he puts in his giant champions, which is a great anti-large unit. I try rear charging the heavy javelin throwers, but now you can see, again, speed 40, speed... Wow, I'm surprised they're still at speed 40. I figured they would have been down to speed 27 by now, but they're getting punished for their rear attack. I've mostly dealt with that Champion of Thaya. Got down to about 17 units left. And I'm using my Sirens to shoot at the giant champions because I need to try and kill these giants. Their anti-large potential is devastating. Absolutely devastating for my chariots. I'm going to go ahead and use Hippolyta here. Do some quick hit and run attacks. Boom. Kill a couple Myrmidons. Get out of there. Move on. I've got a Black Spear back that's kind of regrouped. Got a nice charge on this heavy swordsman. I realize that Hippolyta is probably going to get stuck here, so I drop a truce so she doesn't get beat up too much. My Sirens are still shooting at the giant champions, but still not doing all that much damage. They're not really known for their sling damage, to be fair. And a pair of heavy infantry now trying to collapse in on top of Hippolyta. Hippolyta's still with that, that large penalty bonus she gets. I have her charge the giants. Big mistake. Giants would love to fight her. Activate her Aristea so I can get a little bit of healing. I'm just going back and forth, targeting different units. My Sirens are now out of ammo. I'm going to need to find a way to attack with something else. Activate another truce when I realize that that Apollo was about to get caught there. Big rear charge against the Myrmidon Swordsman with my Horsewomen and combined Black Spears. Then I charge in. I really just don't have a choice. I have to fight him in the mud. I can't just keep falling back from that anymore. And I'm actually really proud of my play with the Amazon Champions, considering the circumstances. I'm up to 180 kills and counting, but there goes all my forces breaking. They know it's just too much to handle. And the Champions are the last to run away, and I'm proud of them for it. Let me show you the statistics. So again, I brought a really tried and tested, very solid Amazon army, but because I didn't play to terrain, I lost that battle. All right, that is the most important takeaway. Okay, my Aristobakoi got outnumbered because I couldn't support them in the trees. My Black Spears did a heck of a job, but still I couldn't support them in the trees. Hippolyta's kills, only 60 at ranged and 31 in melee because I was forced to use her to start charging the enemy while using my Siren's ammo. And my Huntresses completely eliminated from that battle with only 11 kills. Horsewomen, they pulled as much weight as they could, but they were just slowed down by all that mud. And the Amazon Champions, surprisingly, with 190 kills, but I promise you most of that was probably just against the militia that got too far out of position. So not really as valuable as I could have gotten from them. So that is the full story today. I hope you find this information useful as you're getting ready for competitive gameplay in Troy. Because guess what? I've got a tournament coming soon, and I want you guys to register. I think we have already, last time I checked, we were already up to 8 registered combatants for the 1v1 tournament, and I'd like to get that up to 16. We've had about 14 and 15 in the past two tournaments for this, but we also have some for fun events that we'd like to see you come in and participate in as well, like an FFA and chariot races. We're gonna have fun with it. Okay. Anyway, that's it for today's episode of Top Troy Tips. Thank you so much for watching. Ta-ta. I love you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video.